I wanted to chat with a gentleman. Name may be very, very familiar to many of you out there. His name is David Harmer. David, whose dad and both have been involved in politics for a long, long time in California and here in Utah as well. David has taken on the task of trying to unseat a Democratic, two-term Democrat there in the California area, the 11th District, which is kind of in the Bay Area, and we'll check with David here in a minute to describe that. But the latest polls show that he's got about a 6-point lead with about 2 weeks to go in the race. David, welcome to the show, and welcome back to Utah today.
Rod, thanks very much. It's great to be with you and with KNRS.
Now, I wanted to ask you, David, do you enjoy coaching soccer more than you do running for Congress?
Yes, I do. The one big downside of candidacy is that it pretty much torpedoed my soccer coaching career, but the kids were getting to a level where they needed a better coach anyway, so it might have been time to hang up the cleats.
David, you are taking on Democrat Jerry McNerney, who's been there for a couple of terms now. Why did you decide to get into the race?
Well, when I was a kid, this was a free country, and I want to keep it that way. President Reagan used to remind us that no generation ever inherits freedom. It's got to be earned anew. And when I talk about freedom, I'm quite serious. Our second president, John Adams, said, there are two ways to enslave a nation. One is through arms. The other is through debt. And our current political class has chosen the latter. You know that the national debt now has risen to $13.6 trillion. That is a two-thirds increase in just 4 years. It is literally, mathematically unsustainable. And that debt has real-life human consequences. It now amounts to over $122,000 for every taxpayer in the country. Before our kids are old enough to vote, they're going to have a debt around their necks the size of a mortgage or a medical school education. It's the opposite of the American dream. Instead of leaving them a legacy of liberty and opportunity, we're weighing them down with a burden of debt because we wouldn't live within our means. I think it's wrong. That's why I'm running.
David, life is not easy for Republicans in the state of California, especially up in the area that you are in. Tell us about the 11th District there in California, its location, and what are some of the key issues that you're finding out as you go through the district in trying to unseat Jerry McNerney?
Well, Rod, you're right. It's tough enough being a Republican in California, but try being one in the greater San Francisco Bay Area. And, those of us in the Freedom Underground, I think, for a long time felt trapped and outnumbered. In the 9 counties comprising the greater San Francisco Bay Area, there is not a single Republican in either the state or national legislature. But we're on the verge of changing that. The 11th Congressional District stretches from some of the eastern Bay Area suburbs, Danville, San Ramon, Dublin, Pleasanton, a little further south, Morgan Hill and Gilroy, out to the San Joaquin Valley, Stockton, Lodi, Manteca, Tracy. It is actually the last true swing district in California. Registration between the two parties is split almost evenly, about 39% Republican, 39% Democrat. The district followed national trends. It went for Obama by 11 points, but boy, the buyer's remorse has set in with a vengeance, and people realize the mistake they made. They're ready to atone for it.
David, in reading up on your district, someone described the area as among the most heavily foreclosed upon in the country, and the economy there is just flailing. What's going on in that district?
Well, you name what the Obama-Pelosi agenda has done to the United States. It's done it worse to California's 11th District. It has saddled us with lower economic growth, higher unemployment, unsustainable deficits, serious foreclosure problems, and pervasive pessimism. And the gentleman against whom I'm running supported it every step of the way. This election is a referendum on his performance, and deservedly, he's losing. By the way, for KNRS listeners who want to learn more, check out our website, harmerforcongress.com. That's HARMERFOR, Congress.com. If you like what you see, please pitch into the Treasury. We'll put it to good use.
Yeah, you could use a little money out there. How difficult is it, David, to, as you said, running as a Republican in that very liberal part of the country?
Well, this year it's actually pretty easy because the people are with us. We've had a mammoth 4-year experiment now in Keynesian economics, and it doesn't work. We've discovered that borrowing money you don't have to spend on programs you can't afford is not a recipe for economic growth. It's a recipe for stagnation. So and you don't have to look far to see that the country's on the wrong track. Nationally, unemployment is at 9.6%. In my state, it's 12.5%. In this district, it's in the mid-teens, and in the San Joaquin Valley part of the district, it's pushing 20%.
Wow.
So people are hurting, and they recognize that bad times aren't just a consequence of bad luck; they're a consequence of bad policy. And if we want to change the policies that got us here, we need to change the people who are making them.
David, let's look ahead. Let's say in a couple of weeks, in fact, you do win that race. You do head back to Washington. A lot of people are now saying, okay, what is the Republican-controlled House, possibly the Republican-controlled Senate, if everything falls your way, is going to have to do? What do you think? Are you going to be able to work with the Obama administration, or are we going to have gridlock for a couple of more years? What's going to happen?
Gridlock would be a blessing after the activist government we've had over the last couple of years. I think American business is desperate for Washington to stop coming up with ingenious new ways of micromanaging and just to settle down so job creators can begin innovating and growing again. But I think, President Obama has made himself almost irrelevant to the national debate. These elections are a test of national character. They're going to determine who we are as a people. I think the administration bargained that they were dealing with a nation of passive victims, and they've discovered that, in fact, we are still a nation of free and independent citizens. We're doers, we're builders, we're creators. We don't want to turn into just another European-style social welfare, cradle-to-grave nanny state, complete down with the top-down command and control, one-size-fits-all bureaucracies that characterize those places.
Yeah, we can see we can see what's going on in France right now, and some people say, see what's going on in France? We go in this course long enough, and we may be seeing it here in this country.
Exactly right, Rod. Exactly right.
Yeah. Well, David, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Good luck, and we'll keep an eye on the trouble in the California 11th District come November 2nd.
I sure appreciate it. And KNRS listeners, check out harmerforcongress.com.